As the 20th century dawned, Mark Twain was the most popular voice in America, the Oprah of his day. His white suit, crazy hair, big mustache, and ever-present cigar were all part of a carefully calculated public persona that made him one of the first modern celebrities. In 1900, as today, many who have never read a word of his writing know him on sight.
He liked being in the public eye. He liked having his photograph taken, which he did all the time, in every imaginable circumstance. This isn't just about being out in the public eye and posing with someone because you're sharing a lectern or something like that. He did a lot of that. But this is bringing in photographers in his own home. Here's a photograph of Mark Twain playing pool with one of his daughters. Here's Mark Twain sitting on the front porch of his house with the family dog and all the girls sitting around him.
The people and the press loved him. In an age when newspapers were the only mass medium, Twain found a way to grace their pages as constantly as reality stars appear on magazine covers today.
And he was great about what we would call today the soundbite. He could come into some place and be surrounded by reporters. Mr. Twain, what do you think about X? What do you think about the election coming up? These kinds of things. And he would, cigar in hand, pontificate for it, just enough to make sure that he could work his way into the newspaper that day.
Decades before he was famous for being famous, Mark Twain shaped American culture by creating some of our most enduring works of fiction.
My plan has been to pleasantly remind adults of what they once were themselves, how they felt and thought and talked, and what queer enterprises they engaged in. Preface to The Adventures of Tom Sawyer.
Twain idealized rural American life and made Americans yearn to return to an idyllic time that for most people never existed. In the 1800s, rural families lived hard-scrabble lives, and their children toiled long and hard just to put food on the table. In Tom Sawyer, Twain created the adventurous and carefree childhood Americans wished they had experienced. Twain's themes and characters were uniquely American. He pioneered the use of regional dialects and set his tales in what was already becoming known as the Heartland. No less than Ernest Hemingway declared that American literature begins with Huckleberry Finn. Today, we would call Huck a juvenile delinquent. His odd couple adventure takes him down the Mississippi River with the slave, Jim.
And now you've got this kid from the river, this river rat, narrating the story about something as important as what I should feel about slavery. That really challenges the norms of the day, in that you can make your narrator a kid, and you, as an adult writer, can say whatever you want to about slavery and not run the risk of offending as easily because, after all, this is just a kid saying this from an ignorant viewpoint. It's a genius way to do it, I think.
Huck has been taught that all African Americans are subhuman, but he overcomes his background and makes the courageous decision to stand with his friend Jim. Huck's journey of discovery comes straight out of Twain's own life.
In my school days, I had no aversion to slavery. I was not aware there was anything wrong about it. The local paper said nothing against it. The local pulpit taught us that God approved it, that it was a holy thing.
Twain could approach the darkest topics with the lightest and most humorous of touches.
He's not giving a sermon, he's telling a story and letting readers draw their own morals. There's no more serious subject than slavery and racial inequality and the boys coming of age of all this. But to read the story, you don't get that. What you get is this unusually knowing perspective of this young boy who is seeing through the pretenses of society.
Twain wanted his say, but he also yearned for riches and fame.
My books are like water. Those of the great writers are like wine. Fortunately, everybody drinks water.
He was always on the lookout for ways to boost his sales and increase his notoriety.
Twain was one of the first to sell books by subscription, basically to go around to bookstores and even to solicit individuals who would agree ahead of time, I'll buy the book. This was a revolutionary idea from the standpoint of the publisher, because publishers don't want to print any more books than they can sell. If they've already known that we've sold 200,000, whatever it is, they print that number, and they hit their mark and they maximize their profit.
Literature had been a luxury reserved for the rich and well-educated. Twain's popular themes and clever marketing opened fiction to the masses. He would spend his long life poking a stick at injustices in American culture, while at the same time benefiting from his celebrity. In the years after the Civil War, Twain cast a dark eye on the greed and corruption running rampant in Washington, D.C. He named and chastised the era in his novel, The Gilded Age.
There is no distinctly Native American criminal class, except Congress. I can say, and say with pride, that we have legislators that bring higher prices than any other in the world.
Even as he mocked the hypocrisies of the rich, he made himself an ever-appreciating asset.
He was constantly in need of money, and celebrity was a good way to make sure that the funds flowed. And when he ran out of money, he went out on the road. He lectured. He lectured throughout the United States. He lectured throughout Europe. Twain really understood the value of creating an image in the public eye that few Americans prior to this had really been able to see.
Twain was ready, willing, and eager to sell himself or anything else. He happily endorsed typewriters, sewing machines, cigars, scrapbooks, and fountain pens.
He is a guy who loves to pitch products. He's living in a time period where public figures could be approached would you endorse this box of cigars? And they would, no, I'm not that guy. That's a sordid commercial enterprise. I'm above that. And Twain was, sign me up, sign me up. What, do I get free cigars when I do this?
Mark Twain's imagination created worlds at once unique and universal. Each generation delights anew in his enduring wit and timeless fancy.
When I was younger, I could remember anything, whether it had happened or not. But my faculties are decaying, and soon I will not remember any but the things that never happened.